G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video, and we're jumping straight into it. So first thing I will say is if you didn't see my video from yesterday, I suggest you click off this one right now and go and watch the one from yesterday first, as today's video is there's continuity between today's video and yesterday's. Today's video continues off from the previous one, is what I was trying to say. But if you don't know already, this is the first round of FIA Nations Cup, the new exhibition series, Toyota GR Yaris at Fuji Speedway, and this is the second race. So yesterday's video was the first race, and if you remember, I didn't quite go to plan. It was still a good race in the end of the day, but I qualified 6th and finished 10th. Obviously not what I want to do. But this is the second race here, and we're jumping straight into qualifying once again. So we're going to try and grab the slipstream of Crunch here. Crunch was in the top 10. He was about 6th or 7th of memory in the top 10 leaderboard, with a outright time trial pace, lap time 1:49.1 or something. I managed a 1:49.5. So it just goes to show Crunch is very quick, so I was happy to find him on my qualifying out lap, but he runs very deep into turn 1, having the slipstream off side auger. It puts us side by side through turn 2. Doesn't quite leave me the space there, but he was ahead to be fair, so I just have to back out. This isn't ideal for qualifying, so as we head through turn 3, his car has a bit of a bobble on the apex, and I make more contact with him, and it's at this point here where I'm beginning to think maybe this lap isn't going to be it, so I bin off that lap. Let's go out again, but have a look at time remaining. 2 minutes and 5 seconds at this point as we're exiting the pits. An out lap, or the out laps I've been doing, are 2 minutes 10, so I'm going to have to get a wriggle on in order to get around the circuit one more time. Brake balance all the way to the back. This out lap is probably going to take a bit of a chunk out of the tyres, which is unfortunate for me, but that's the difference between putting any lap on the board or putting a lap with not as optimal tyre wear as I would like. I do have to go quite aggressive on this out lap, and as we round the final corner, you can see got 25 seconds to head down the main straight. Not the pit lane, the start-finish line is about halfway down the straight, so I don't have quite as far to go, but you can see at this point we're going to comfortably make our way across the line with about 10 seconds to spare. There's actually someone behind us. If we're going to look behind in a second, there's someone way back in the distance. There we go, Atom. He makes it across the line with 3 seconds to spare, so it could have been worse for us. But now we have a qualifying lap with no slipstream. That does handicap us a bit, but I didn't have the time to be picky and falling back and finding slipstream or whatever, so I just have to go for it on my own. I managed a 1:49.5 in time trial. That of course is no tyre wear. We of course have 9 times tyre wear in qualifying, the same multiplier as the race, so the tyres will degrade as the lap goes on, and obviously your qualifying lap is quite intense, quite balls to the wall kind of thing, so by the end of the final sector your tyres are not going to be at optimal performance, so there will be a handicap in times. But you can see over on the left hand side, Metal Gear has set himself a 49.7. I don't know if that was in slipstream, it probably was, but that just goes to show it is possible to put a good lap time on the board, and honestly, even if that wasn't in slipstream, I still wouldn't be surprised. Metal Gear is very quick player. But have a look down there, people setting 150s, 151s. In my previous video, actually, I did a 150.3. That was with slipstream in qualifying. So let's see how close we can get to that, and that'll just go. That'll just show, how much slipstream is worth. So as we fast forward up towards the line, I don't want to sit through the main straight again. In 150.5, 2 tenths off what I could manage in slipstream. Slipstream is probably worth. It's probably more than 2 tenths, to be honest. Probably worth 3 or 4 tenths in this occasion. So our pace has improved since the previous race, and we once again find ourselves in 6th. We're going to start on the medium tyres, but as always, let's enjoy the Nations Cup introduction. Lovely, as always, we made our cars on the grid now, once again, starting in 6th, standing start with false start check, so we do have to control this start. But before that, a short story.
施錠をしたとはいえ、こんな古い木の扉なんて簡単に破られるだろうな。
Right, there we go. So, burning fuel at the start of the race, putting so much pollution in the atmosphere, melting the polar ice caps. Not obviously in universe, of course. We are racing electronically, which does help with pollution, I guess. People getting their racing fixes virtually as opposed to in real life. But we get a much better start than the previous time, not hitting the limiter and getting a better reaction time to the lights going out. But heading towards turn 1, let's hope we don't lose a position. Someone does sort of make a bit of contact with me. Crunch flies down the outside. Nice tight line through turn 1. We are side by side with Adam at this point, but I did downshift into 2nd, so he gets a superior run. I think he stayed in 3rd for turn 1, and he does come back into position ahead of me. A little bit of contact through turn 3. Do I keep this position? I'm side by side once again as we go through 100R. This is not good. I don't want to be doing this. I want to stay, you know, I want to work together. I want to stay in the slipstream with this threesome up ahead. I think Fella is broken away at this point. Looking at down the inside at turn 6, going against my own advice. And we don't quite get that move done. But thankfully Atom is still in slipstream of Metal Gear up ahead. So, you know, there is still the potential of fighting our way through to 2nd as long as we don't lose slipstream. Coming into turn 10, someone's looking racy down onto the radar. He does go for the move there, and he makes a little bit of contact. Or was there any contact? I don't think so. It was Iron Mask. That's fine. He's entitled to make that move, although I didn't like it because I wanted to stay in slipstream of Atom. But once again, we're still running side by side up through turn 13. He just completes that move, coming up through turn 14. And, you know, not ideal, but hopefully he can stay in the slipstream of Atom. I obviously can't see the time gap between the two cars, so I don't know if he is still in slipstream. But you can see down on the radar, we get dive bombed again. We leave space on the apex and get barged off on the exit. So cheers for that, Crunch. He's obviously very quick, but I don't know whether that was done on purpose or what, but still a little bit dodgy. I left plenty of space for him on the apex. He didn't feel as though he needed to leave any space for me on the exit. But what goes around comes around, I guess, so we'll just leave him to his own devices and see how that works out for him. But he gets the slipstream past Iron Mask, who keeps it on the inside at turn 1. We'll just let them duke it out a little bit. Crunch goes wide a little bit at turn 1, and we managed to get the overspeed there. And although Iron Mask is keeping Crunch in the slipstream there, coming up towards turn 3, does he back out of it? No, a little bit of contact between us, and well, look at that, blinking intensifies, angrily blinks is what I'm doing at Crunch right now. I don't quite understand what's going on here, but he's shuffled me off on the outside of corners twice within half a lap, so I'm not feeling too happy towards Crunch at this point. You can see Iron Mask is driving away a little bit, and I think he's lost the slipstream on 5th, so I think that was a bit of a team effort. Ultimately losing the slipstream off the leading pack was a bit of a team effort. I think Iron Mask and I were fighting a little bit, and you know, it was both our fault at the opening lap. Crunch dives down the inside of Iron Mask once again, just losing everyone time. You can see I'm now side by side with Iron Mask, heading up through turn 13. He keeps his nose there, he's entitled to do that. That's fine. He just leaves me some space, but I think he was going to get that move done even if he didn't. So that's fine as well. Crunch, I think he's getting tunnel vision. He's seeing gaps and just going for it instead of thinking about the greater good. Or perhaps just braking a little bit too late in slipstream. Obviously, you can't really practice slipstream unless you join a lobby with other players. Otherwise, time trial on your own. There's no slipstream at all. So, you know, I think Crunch just a little bit out of his element. He's very quick though. He's on the top 10. You know, if you get yourself onto the top 10, you've obviously got some skill to you, but I think his racecraft probably needs a little bit more work. Runs defensive into turn 1, in line with my, I don't want to say judgment, but my analysis of Crunch's driving. He goes defensive into turn 1. We're on lap 3. Just let Iron Mask pass, you get slipstream down this straight towards turn 3, but still, 3 of us, the trio, we're all fighting, and I'm not here for it. But as we go through turn 3, Iron Mask keeps with this move, but he does back out. A little bit of contact between us, but he doesn't shuffle me off the track like Crunch did, so, you know, I guess that's better. But we've run wide through 100R, we're completely off that apex at turn 5, and that doesn't bode well for keeping in the slipstream of Crunch. I do want to get ahead of this guy. I think I'm quicker than him in the race, but he's keeping with me via slipstream or fighting, but we'll see how that develops as we run down towards 300R. We're still in the slipstream. As we hit our braking marker here, it does appear that I was about to say, it does appear Crunch is catching the group up ahead a little bit, but he ran deep and he's now out of slipstream and much closer to me, but hopefully we can stay this close all through this final sector, all through these corners, twisty section, tyres screaming for mercy, and maybe we can slipstream past him. If he has the slipstream off Atom though, that will put a halt to my idea there, but once again, I can't see the time gap between the 2 cars up ahead, so we're just going to have to hope that he's in slipstream, even though he's wide off turn 16. So as we begin to accelerate, I don't think he's in slipstream. We are gaining slightly, or he might be in slipstream, but because I'm a lot closer to him than he is to the car in front of him, I will be gaining. But as we pull out, we continue to accelerate past, which tells me there's no slipstream, and as we get that get that position off Crunch, it reveals that the gap is 1.1 seconds. So yes, there was no slipstream off Atom to interfere with the battling between myself and Crunch, but on the exit of turn 1, we finally get a nice clean move on Crunch, show him how it's done. No one needs to be pushed off the track, no one needs to be punted or dive bombed, or no contact has to be made. It is possible to do, obviously a bit of learning to do there, but now that we're ahead, we're going to focus on trying to break slipstream. So this is the difficult thing about this track. You can be faster throughout the whole circuit, but if they've got slipstream on the main straight, it's going to be so hard to break away from people. But on the exit of turn 6, there was obviously a little bit of a altercation between Crunch and Iron Mask, and that gap has opened up to over 6/10, or it's just closing down. Obviously got a poor exit, but over 6/10 the gap is at this point. So as we go up through the final sector again, hopefully we can break this slipstream. Someone ran deep into turn 10, I think it might have been Crunch, but up through turn 13, look at that gap, 3/4 of a second, over 3/4 of a second, that's out of the slipstream range, but, it's obviously very close to what the slipstream range is, so one little mistake through these final few corners and Crunch will be back into the slipstream on the main straight. But let's focus on this final corner, get onto the power, and stay on the power. If you get on the power and then have to feather the throttle not to go off the track, you'll lose time. But look at that, out of the slipstream range. We're going to flash ahead. It kind of remained like that for a few laps, so we're on lap 5 now. And the 3 cars up ahead are fighting quite heavily. They were 2 seconds ahead of me going into turn 10, but as we go through this final sector, everyone's trying to get past each other. They're fighting so heavily, 3 wide through turn 14, through turn 15. Ranger Oz has the inside, Adam falls in behind, Psydog tries to get the undercut, not quite going to happen, but then Psydog looks up the inside of Adam at this point, who runs in wide. He's going to try and get a good exit and undercut everybody. He does try to do that. Ranger Oz off the track, he has the slipstream off Psydog, side by side with Ranger. Have a look at the gap. 1 second. We've gained a whole second through that final sector as Ranger Oz appears to be pulling in the pits, which he does. So that's quite an early stop. He's done 5 laps on the medium. He's obviously wanting to do an undercut. We're going to flash ahead to the following lap. This is lap 6. So have a look on there. Sidor goes into the pit, so that leaves Atom out for the extra lap. I'm going for the extra lap too. I say extra lap, but that's compared to the other guys. So they're trying to undercut. We're trying to overcut. If I can stay out on my medium tyres and run faster than guys on their hard tyres, then, I will make a gain compared to the cars that I'm racing around me. But the car that I'm racing, Iron Mask, he stayed out too. So there's going to be no strategical difference between the pair of us. But hopefully, well, I guess it essentially just comes down to how long can we get these tyres to last. And, as we were going through the lap 6, I was just monitoring my time, my sector times, and we got our fastest second sector of the race on lap 6, so I think the tyres were good enough to stay out, but if we had a look, it's off the screen now, but I was like 8 tenths down in the final sector, which you can't see unless you go across the line without the pit stop, so I probably should have gone in the end of lap 6. That would have given a strategical difference between myself and Iron Mask, which could potentially have meant that I could have got myself out of slipstream, especially if he stayed out for the extra lap, or he could have copied me and that would have negated everything. But this is a very long stint on these tyres, and this final sector really shows how much understeer you're getting. It really demonstrates the level of grip you've got, or lack thereof. And we have to run very slow through this final sector, and especially this last corner. We do brake a little bit late, but look how wide we go. We're nowhere near the apex. We're in a completely different postcode to the apex of turn 16 there, and Iron Mask gets a much better exit than me. I have to go down into second in order to get the launch off the final corner. But we're both going to go into the pits. Very cumbersome entry. Hard tyres now, so we've done the same strategy as last time. I perhaps didn't learn off the previous race, where I probably should have went in on the end of lap 6, but what's done is done. We can't dwell on it. We're just going to try and make the best of a bad situation and see where we come out of the pits. Sidor goes past. Crunch goes past. There he is in the green car, and we're in slipstream, actually, or we were momentarily until it just clicked over to 8 tenths, but on the exit of turn 1, he's 1 second ahead. And Iron Mask is 2 tenths behind. So Iron Mask has my slipstream, I've got none, so he's going to be gaining down all the straights. Hopefully I can get myself out of slipstream range through the final sector where you got all the corners, so there's no real slipstream advantage to be made there. As Atom up ahead on the halfway through 100R, very wide. He's got dirty tyres now. Crunch makes his way past Atom, and I find myself behind him. So Atom is going to have dirty tyres. I've got slipstream now, which is good. 3 tenths apiece to each gap ahead and behind me, to the cars ahead and behind me. So we're going to have slipstream 300R heading down towards the final corner. Do we go for the dive here? No, we stay behind. Lovely. So through the final sector, as long as you can stay in the slipstream, I predict that Atom will catch up to Crunch, and I will catch up to Atom, and we could potentially be 3 wide into turn 1. But we're going to stay with this race as things begin to get interesting. We begin to fight for our positions around us. So we are going to stay with the race, the rest of the race now completely unedited. So we qualified 6th. We qualified 6th in the last race also, and finished 10th. We find ourselves in 9th, 4 tenths off 10th again. So there is a lot of work to be done. But as we exit onto the main straight, Crunch is out of slipstream of Ranger Oz, and we are in the slipstream of Atom as Atom catches up to Crunch. There's someone else in the pits actually. You might have just seen that. There we go. We all gain a position. I find myself in 8th now instead of 9th. Crunch in 6th. Atom in 7th, although that just swaps then, as Atom makes his way up the inside of Crunch. I just hang back. I don't quite put my nose anywhere. Don't run side by side with anybody, but on the exit there, Crunch is just where I want to be. I have to back out of the throttle, and he keeps that position, but Atom is now back ahead of Crunch. Iron Mask still 2 tenths behind. He wasn't able to catch up to me because I had slipstream through the whole straight, as Crunch runs very wide through turn 3. There is a penalty out there to be collected if you run a little bit too wide, but I think he just about managed to keep a sliver of tyre onto the road, onto the red curbing rather, and therefore keep himself penalty free. Now, if you cast your mind back to the pit stop phase, Crunch went in before me. He went in either 1 lap or 2 laps before me. He was behind, so I didn't see when exactly he went in. But he drove past me on the exit, which means he's at least got 1 lap older tyres. So that technically means we have a tyre advantage compared to Crunch, and that could potentially come in handy when trying to make, trying to catch up or coming through corners. So 100R and then the final sector is the main handling portions of this track. But through the final sector, let's maintain slipstream, obviously. We're getting the final sector consistently right more often in this race here. The first race, so yesterday's video, was a little bit all over the place. I wasn't as consistent. I didn't feel 100% comfortable. I could control the car, but I didn't feel that comfortable. I was suffering with tyre wear yesterday, and I think that has, you know, proved to be handy in terms of practice for this race. Slipstream is still a bit of a problem, although there is a yellow flag up ahead. Somebody has binned it on the straight. Sidehawk has binned it on the straight, and we just go through him. Probably should have went around him, wasn't worth the risk. But now we find ourselves off one position off 6th. Everyone's in Slipstream up to 4th, except for now when Crunch goes wide and is potentially out of the Slipstream, but we're not able to capitalise on his mistake, especially because we're coming up towards turn 3. Not really an overtaking move unless you're already completely alongside, but I do think Crunch is out of the Slipstream with Atom, which is not good for us. He does run wide through 100R, and we are able to get up the inside at turn 5, but it's the outside for the following corner. But there is a dive made by Ironmask, who hits Crunch. We find ourselves in the same trio at the start of the race of the three of us were fighting at the start of the race, and now we're back fighting towards the end of the race. But you can see how close we are to the back of Crunch, even tapping him as he changes his gears through the final into the braking zone, into turn 10. He runs deep, undercut, but outside for turn 11, and he goes past me once again, and still ahead of me, so I was getting a little bit frustrated. It's not his fault, I guess, we're just racing, but in terms of my race, in terms of my charge up towards 4th, this isn't good. All this fighting is wide off turn 15. Still not able to get onto the power as early as I like. Absolutely hemorrhaging time. You can see the pair up ahead, 4th and 5th, have broken away quite significantly as we find ourselves stuck behind Crunch through that final sector. But he does get himself a better exit than me. I'm actually staying out of the Slipstream to build a little bit of a margin, a little bit of a buffer, in order to be able to Slipstream up past Crunch. But meanwhile we're doing that, Ironmask is in my Slipstream. Now that I've pulled out, I don't have Slipstream. Ironmask has the speed advantage, coming in 3 wide towards turn 1. Well, not ideal in terms of speed, but good in terms of the spectacle. I brake slightly early. Ironmask makes his way past. Crunch goes deep, a little bit of a bump on Ironmask, so I guess a little bit of a bump and run, but we're still side by side coming up towards turn 3, 50% alongside. I'm on the outside. That corner belongs to the person on the inside. In that instance there, I just allow Ironmask to come back ahead. Probably the right thing to do is I did bump him a little bit through turn 1, which probably wasn't very sportsmanlike of me, if that's the correct way, if that's the correct term, sportsmanlike, who knows. But this is lap 11 now, so obviously 4th is off the cards. 5th is the best position we can get, but at least we're in the contention for 5th instead of battling down in 10th. But once again, Slipstream down towards turn 10, braking under the Dunlop sign. There's a dive up the inside. It's Crunch once again. That was a very, very strong move by Crunch. Probably a little bit too strong. Absolute dive down the inside, so Sidehawk went past with the contact, and then Crunch absolutely crunched into the side of me, you could say. And once again, so he's run me off twice, he's dive bombed me. You know, I'm not very happy with his racecraft. He's quick, I'll give it to him, but you know, the racecraft is not on par with his speed, let's say that. I'm not trying to be mean, but you know, from an opponent's perspective, he may feel as though, oh well no, I made the apex or whatever, he was in the way, he turned in. I can definitely say from an opponent's perspective, his racing, his moves aren't quite as polished as one would like. So that has just allowed Ironmask up the road. So we've lost 5th position thanks to that, and we're out of the Slipstream, as we see. Yep, he's 1 second ahead of me. So lost the Slipstream of 5th. It could be said that 5th is off the cards until Ironmask runs wide through turn 1. The exit of turn 1. Still 8 tenths behind, so still not in the Slipstream yet, but Crunch is looking very racy. Had half a car looking up the inside there, just trying to put me off a little bit through turn 3. You don't want to be lobbing it up the inside of turn 3, like I said previously. 100% alongside only is when a move is viable at turn 3, but there's no like late braking up the inside as you would see at turn 1 or turn 10. But Ironmask through turn 6, through turn 7, he's quite wide there, but I'm still out of the Slipstream until, oh no, I'm in the Slipstream, so I get a nice exit out of turn 6. in the slipstream of Iron Mask. As long as we can stay this close, heading up the straight towards turn 1, we could potentially overtake Iron Mask, and that would mark the final lap as well, where the final run along the straight is only half as long as it is on any other lap, except lap 1, I guess. So if you can get your way past down the straight on lap 1, keep on lap 12 in this case rather, and keep him behind for the rest of the lap, you've pretty much sealed yourself to finish ahead of that player. But through the final sector, I think Iron Mask's tyres have gone off a little bit. He's under half a second now, and as long as you get a nice run through this final corner, which we do, Crunch has fallen out of the slipstream now, which is good for me. I was kind of sick of battling with him. But we now have the slipstream of Iron Mask, and we have quite the margin too, 3/10. He just runs into the inside. I've had half a split thought that he might have been going into the pits for a second. He runs completely inside. There's no way I'm going up the inside here, so the other tactic is to make him run narrow, and he is narrow. He's offline a little bit. Does he run deep? He does. Undercut. Beautiful textbook move there, but he still does have a nose alongside on my left-hand side there, but yeah, we do complete that move with the extra momentum from the sort of late apex of turn 1. Lovely move there by me. So as long as we can keep him behind, we've sealed ourselves 5th, which is honestly, considering the amount of battling that I was doing in this race, 5th I'll take, especially because I started 6th. It's up 1 position, so as long as you move forward throughout a race, I would say that race was worth doing. But 3/10 behind, down through this flat out section, there is still the potential of a move down into turn 10, but he is quite a fair way back. And sending it from that far back would probably result in a crash, so Iron Mask refrains from doing that. It runs slightly deep. He gets a much better run through there actually, but he's still 4/10 behind. Punch it up through turn 12, comes down to 2/10, so he gets a much better run through the chicane. But, you know, as we said previously, if you're too close, you won't get the slingshot, but, you know, how close you have to be for the slipstream to not be effective is much smaller in these cars. So, I would say prime distance about 2/10, so if he's less than 2/10 coming out of this final corner, I should probably be worried about a move, but he actually makes a hash the final corner. He breaks slipstream range there, so it's going to be 5th. We're going to fast forward up towards the line to make it official. 5th. And we actually set our fastest lap of the race at 1:51.9 on our hard tyres. So it goes to show we didn't really even maximise our medium stint. So it was quite possible we could have better positions, perhaps even 4th. But we come across the line, 239 points. It's quite a good points haulage for me, and I'll take it happily. But there we go. That finally marks the end of my campaign in round 1 of Nations Cup. There, Toyota Yaris. No, I don't really drive the road cars in this game too much, but in this occasion, I think I managed to finally get things under control in that second race. First race was a bit all over the place, falling back in the pack, but we actually managed to gain in that one, picking up a lovely result of 239 points, which will be up there in, that would be quite up there in terms of the most number of points we'd ever score in a FIA race, so I'll happily take it. And 5th place in top split, I'll also take that too. So overall, quite a good second race there, and I do hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like to let me know if you did, and do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.